Hi and welcome to the second ever review of a Chinese car here on Motoring Middle East, and we have for you the Geely Emgrand X7 Sport. So what is Emgrand? Emgrand is sort of a sub-brand within Geely which is a bit more upmarket. Think of it like the Genesis is to Hyundai, which of course then later branched out to be a brand in itself. And that's what they're doing with Emgrand. This is the identifier, this fancy grille here with the gold emblem. There's your Emgrand identifier. Have a look at the side of this car. What does it remind you of? Take a look. Now I know what you're all thinking. You're looking at this here and you're thinking it reminds you of a Range Rover. Nah, this is a cheetah. Well, that's what it says in the brochure anyway. Apparently it's styled after a running cheetah. If you can see it, then you'll probably have better eyes than me. But you know, we're gonna give it a go and see what it's like. Great value proposition. It's about CRV size to give you some perspective. Here you go, it's all-wheel drive, this version, the Geely Emgrand X7 Sport. So first things first, let's take a look at the boot. So let's take a look at the boot, and yeah, it's as you'd expect, a nice, wide, expansive boot. A bit of a high loading lip, maybe not as deep as you would have thought, but underneath here, there is a little bit of a compartment to store a few things around the spare wheel, and of course the toolkit sits there as well. Here there's a little pocket on this side, and on this side there is a power supply. It of course has a cover, and the seats are of course split folding, as you can see from there, and it's quick release from here. I don't know if the belt will let it do it, but yes, okay, there you go. It doesn't go all the way down, but goes pretty much flat, so it would give you a fairly large loading space. So quite practical actually, just as you would expect. So here we are in the back. Let's first of all pull this seat back. There you go. As simple as that. It's got, of course, 3 seat belts there, as you'd expect, and does have, as you can see, Isofix. I believe that's Isofix anchor points there in the seats there. So let's get into the back, see how I fit. I've got, of course, the front seat is set for me, my driving position, and as you can see, I got plenty of headroom, despite the fact that it's got this full panoramic sunroof with the shade, but I still got plenty of room. That's not an issue at all. My feet are fine, as you can see down there. That's not an issue. There's a little net thing here, and I don't even need the scooped out rears of these seats. Still got plenty of knee room, and like I said, this seat is set for me. So yeah, not too bad at all actually. Down here there's one AC vent. So that's good. This is, of course, it's a dual climate control in this car. You also get regular single climate control in the lower spec car, and there's a power supply there as well. What else we got here? Of course, there is the requisite armrest, but look at this. That's quite posh, isn't it? It's this shiny piano black plastic and 2 cup holders and a nice damped cover. Not too bad. I wonder what the front is like. Let's find out. So now we're getting into the front, and there's a lot of stuff that I want to show you in here actually, because it's a rather surprising cabin. Now the first thing you're probably thinking is that it looks a bit like a Porsche Cayenne, doesn't it? Especially with these handles here and this sort of flowing waterfall center console here with these buttons on either side. Yeah, you might well be right. Let's close that, get a bit silent. I just noticed how silent that is actually. The sound insulation is surprisingly good. This one has keyless go, starter button on there. Look at that, look how that starts up, you see that? And a little Geely sign comes up on there as well. Now I just want to show you this because this is really nice. It's all digital, apart from these sides, this side and this side, although that's also a digital display as well. And of course you can scroll through it. There's a slightly odd arrangement here because you've got a button here just on the trip, and then you press that, and then it tells you, oh, cluster button activated, which is this bit here. These are the remotes for the stereo. We turn the AC on here a little bit because it's got climate control, dual climate control, as you can see, individual. Just set and off you go, so that's quite nice. So yeah, so it says that, so you've got these buttons here which are for the stereo, but if you press that button there, it says cluster button activated, and then you can use these buttons to operate that, as you can see. Now 149 left. I've done about 260 kilometers in this. I got about 12.3 liters per 100, which is, I suppose, average-ish. Although it must have a small tank because it seems to be going through fuel quite quickly, because I've already had to put a little bit in, but probably didn't give it to me on a full tank. But that's quite nice. It's quite a clear display, and it does things like, so for example, if you hit radio, you get a little radio on there as well. And if you do Bluetooth, then it goes on to Bluetooth. This does, of course, have Bluetooth on there as well. So that's quite nice. And again, if I just hit the button here, that should take it back to there, and I can put it back onto there, etc., etc. On this side, I've got the cruise control buttons. There you go. And then there's a couple of stalks, obviously indicators and lights, and then of course the wipers as well. Down here we've got the control for the wing mirrors and the setting for the headlights. This is quite nice. I like this. Look, there's lots of little touches in this thing. You know, I'll come back to that, but pretty standard down here. We've got lecky seats, so forward, back, up, down. Yeah, up, down, and of course the rear seat as well. A nice steering wheel, stitching here. By the way, top of the range car, this has got Nappa leather. They all come with leather. You don't get cloth seats with your X7. Even the regular model gets leather, but this one gets a nicer Nappa leather, and it is actually very nice, you know. Nice bit of stitching on there as well. Very, very nice indeed. And this also has stitching on the wheel. The steering wheel is quite nice to hold. It is adjustable. There's a lever down here. So there's a little bit of adjustment. Not a lot, but a little bit of adjustment there. Now, sticking in theme with the Porsche inspired styling, shall we say, it's also got this matte finish. So that's where you can probably hardly make it out on here, but it's got this matte finish screen, which has a nice, you know, matte-like touch to it. And I've seen this probably only in the latest iteration of Porsches, where they've done this kind of screen like this, which is also dark and has a matte finish, and it's quite nice. Maybe if I put it onto nav, and yes, it does have, again, this model has satellite navigation. If I put it onto there, then perhaps that will show you. It's taken a while to warm up there and to start up. So whilst we're waiting for that, we've got a couple holders here, and in here we've got a cubby box with another power supply, one USB and an aux as well. Now, there's only one USB. I do think maybe another USB would be useful, and maybe a USB in the back would also be useful. This has got electronic handbrake, and it's got auto hold. So basically, every time you come to a stop on the traffic light or something, it automatically holds. I don't like that, to keep it off. Traction off button there. Four-wheel drive lock. It basically locks it into four-wheel drive. I don't think it's a diff lock. I think it just locks into four-wheel drive. Hill descent, and it's got modes for the transmission. I'll come back to those in a moment. One thing I will say though about these buttons is you can make it out, but they're nicely damped and they move quite softly. So, you know, like if you went back, say, you know, obviously they're being inspired by Porsche type buttons or Lexus type buttons. You go back a few years, maybe 10-15 years, even in some of the other cars from like Korea or whatever, and these would have a clicky kind of finicky feel to them, where maybe they wouldn't quite go down evenly, or there might be a little bit of movement or a little bit of scraping along the sides or something. This one doesn't. Very nice, very smooth, no issues at all. Again, like I said, the climate control there, the sat nav has started up, so there it is, and it has the radio, media, so you got Bluetooth and USB, and all the rest of it. I will say this is very nice. It has an aluminium feel plastic to it, so it's a little bit better than just putting a slab of plastic there, which is of course replicated down here and also on these handles. The cup holders of course can be covered up like that, which is again, it's quite nice actually. And this stuff here is all soft touch. You can see that. Even this bit here, you see that? You see, it's all, you can just make out. It's all soft touch. So actually, this is surprisingly upmarket. And again, like I said, little design touches like that. And the stereo. It's got 6 speakers in this top of the range one. And the stereo system could be better, quite frankly. But it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Could be better, but it's not too bad. There's also spaces down here in the door pockets. So that's quite handy. Now let me just give you the spec and prices. Give you a few more details. So this basically comes in 4 versions. 2 front-wheel drive ones and 2 all-wheel drive ones. This of course is the top of the range car, has all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive on this car is by Borg Warner. So they've brought that in. And also the safety systems on this car, they have ESP system from Bosch. It's Bosch ESP 9.1 combined with ABS and traction control. So, you know, it's got all the safety systems on it. And additionally, like I said, it's got the airbags as well. This one's got 6 airbags, and the lower spec one has got 4 airbags. The only difference between this one and the lower spec one, the engines are the same. They both have 2.4 4-cylinder engines putting out 150 horsepower and 166 pounds-foot of torque. And I'll talk about the engine a bit more when we go for a little drive. They all come with alloy wheels. You don't get steelies, but this one gets 18-inch alloys and the other one gets 17-inch alloys. This one gets a bigger screen here, this one, and then the other car gets a smaller screen. This has a dual zone climate control. The regular car has a single zone climate control. And this one has parking camera, which actually gives you distances. I wonder if I can show you that on here. I wonder if you can make that out. It's a bit bright today, but yeah, there you go. Just, you can see it just there. It actually gives you the distance as well, so that's quite handy. 6-speed automatic, by the way. And what else can I tell you? So that one doesn't have a parking camera. This one also has sat nav. It has 6 speakers. The other one has 4 speakers, and this one has a panoramic roof, and that one doesn't. Prices, we're talking a starting price on this car for the base model front-wheel drive of $59,995, which for a CRV size car with leather and alloys makes you stink, doesn't it? Makes you stop and think about that. It's like, whoa, hang on a minute, that's not a bad deal. But then you go in there and you get tempted by a little bit more. You say, well, the all-wheel drive will be quite good, isn't it? So you get the same car with all-wheel drive, you're talking $69,995. Then you go, well, actually, I want the bigger screen, and I want the better leather, and I want, you know, all of this stuff, and the reversing cameras could be quite useful. So then you'll end up paying the same, $69,995, if you go for front-wheel drive. If you go for this one, the full bells and whistles, all singing, all dancing, all-wheel drive car with everything on it, $79,995. Plus, all of those, free 1-year insurance. Free 1-year insurance. Not bad at all. I'll tell you what, how does it drive though? That's the question you're asking. So I'll tell you what, that's what we need to do next. Okay, so we're ready to go. As I mentioned, this has the 2.4 4-cylinder engine, 155 horsepower. This is the only engine that it comes with. Funnily enough, in China, they don't actually get this engine. They get a 1.8 turbo because for tax purposes, they need to have a smaller CC. So they go for that one. I'm beginning to wonder though if they get the better deal, because this is not a great engine, let's be honest. It feels a bit archaic. I'm not quite sure where this is sourced from. Something suggests to me maybe Mitsubishi, but I can't verify that. But I have a nagging suspicion that it might be a Mitsubishi sourced or derived unit. They say it's a Geely owned unit, so maybe it's inspired by. But and the gears don't quite work with it. I mean, let's not be too harsh. It's not slow. I wouldn't say it's slow. I wouldn't say it was gutless. And off the line, it's reasonably okay. Although there were a couple of instances where, you know, at a roundabout, I was gonna accelerate, and then I thought the better of it and thought, nah, maybe not. You know that moment you just had when you go, right, I'm gonna go for it? No, I'm not. No, I'll wait for a gap. I'll wait for a bigger gap. So, and mid-range, so here we are doing about, we're just, so you see what happens there. So even at like 80, and I put my foot down, nothing, kicks down, oh, and it gradually starts to build up. So, and it has sports mode, and I have tried it in sports mode. So here we go, here's sports mode, and the instrument panel changes. So it changes to a massive rev counter in red with red highlights on it. So again, put my foot down. Okay, maybe a little bit of a quicker response, but really not that much different. So honestly, I just leave it in regular mode. It does have an eco mode in there, and I didn't think what that one does. But let's not be too harsh on it. You know what I mean? You're getting a lot for your money, and the engine moves. It's reasonably quiet. It's reasonably refined. It moves the car along, around town, in traffic, no big issues at all. And on motorway cruising speeds, not really an issue once you get up to speed. Just don't go for any ambitious overtakes or traffic light Grand Prix, because you're not going to win those. Aside from that, good all-round visibility, nice big mirrors, of course electronically adjustable, quite a good ride. Very good ride actually, no issues at all. Not too much bump thump, not too much noise, not too harsh. Not too wallowy either, although it's a little bit of float in here. There is, as you can see, there's a little bit of float. Now that brings us on to handling, which again, this is not a sports car, and I'm not saying that it's really good handling, but it's not really bad either. You know, and I'm going to put this into context, but don't forget, we are reviewing a Chinese car. A Chinese car, the second Chinese car that I've reviewed. And, you know, until not that long ago, I was refusing to review Chinese cars because I was like, no, they're just appalling. I'm not going to review them. That's just a waste of time. But here I am in a Chinese car, and I'm going, if somebody gave me this car, if this was my company car, I wouldn't complain at all. I'd be quite happy in it. Because in addition to the fact that it rides really well, handles all right, I mean, there's no understeer. You know, what I was expecting was terminal understeer. And I've checked it around a few corners. No, it's fine. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't understeer. Of course it does. But there's none of that, oh my God, where are we going? No, it doesn't do any of that. It's absolutely fine. It's pretty planted. In fact, it feels fairly stable. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But in terms of the braking is good as well. The brakes are not bad at all. There you go. Not bad. Pretty responsive. And again, there's none of these things that sometimes you get with a new car or a new manufacturer or a manufacturer that's, say, new to the game. You may have a little bit of a maturity of controls, you know, with the buttons. Like I said, the switchgear is very nicely sorted and feels very nice, feels very mature, like it's been developed. You know, this is the second generation of this X7 actually. And people ask me about safety. This, of course, I've got all the electronic kits from Bosch, but the previous gen of this car scored 5 stars in the Chinese NCAP, which is based on the Euro NCAP. So it kind of bodes well with this. And another thing that bodes well for this car, which brings me on to the fact that also not only does it ride well and drives okay, is it's quite refined. It's comfortable. It's quiet. We're going over some yellow bits there. Did you hear that? Just a regular sort of bump thump that you would get in any car. Nothing out of the ordinary. No clattering, no rattling, no squeaking. It's absolutely fine. Geely, of course, now owns Volvo. And this is the thing. They're taking a lot of input from Volvo. And Volvo are helping them with a lot of things. You know, from quality to safety to build to construction. All of that stuff is coming from Volvo. One thing that Volvo might want to help them with, I think, perhaps a little bit more, is the seating. So the seating for me is a bit problematic in this car, but that's probably because I'm 6'2" and with long legs. So for me, in order to be close enough to the steering wheel, and you know, you should correctly hold the steering wheel with your elbow slightly bent here, I have to be a bit closer, and then there's not enough leg room for me. So, and also the seat back feels a bit odd as well. But I think that's probably just my shape. So by all means, before you buy this car, have a sit in it and take it for a test drive and make sure that you're comfortable. But I do feel like I'm personally just perched up on this car a little bit, and the seating position isn't quite right for me. But that's a minor gripe, and that gripe I think is more a personal thing than a general viewpoint on this car. So overall then, wow, what a surprise. What a grown-up proposition for very affordable money. I mean, all you people thinking of going out and buying a CRV or something of that ilk, go down to Geely and have a look at one of these. I mean, they'll do you a deal. Value for money, well equipped, very well equipped, spacious, practical, and drives all right. So there you go. There's our review, our definitive review on the Geely Emgrand X7 Sport. Thank you so much for watching. Do please follow us on all of the usual channels. Just search for Motoring Middle East on, you go to our website, motoringme.com, and on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Search for Motoring Middle East, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please do like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow me, Shahzad Sheikh, on all of the usual channels. Just search for me, you'll find me. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time.